covering the world of professional wrestling. This is the Signature Spot with Chris Toplak.
3, 2, 1.
Thank you very much for tuning into the latest episode of The Signature Spot with Chris Toplak. As always, I greatly appreciate your ongoing support. I'm excited for this program today. And if you want to listen to new episodes, they are available without fail every single Thursday. You can listen or watch, depending on what you want to do, youtube.com/The Signature Spot if you haven't already subscribed today. The Lords of Pain YouTube channel, the show is also provided on there. TheGorillaPosition.com, an excellent and loyal partner of the program. Also, Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Overcast. You can listen to the show on any of those platforms. And if you want to follow me on social media, easy to find. You can like The Signature Spot on Facebook, at Chris Toplak on Twitter, also at Signature Spot on Twitter, at The Signature Spot on Instagram, and also the website, thesignaturesspot.com. Before we jump into the program, some sad news I do want to touch on. We lost one of our soldiers from the professional wrestling world. Ashley Mazzaro, former WWE superstar, passed away at age 39 of an apparent suicide. Very shocking to her friends and family, and of course, fans as well. And what's very heartbreaking about this is that she left behind her teenage daughter, Alexa. Now, in a very selfless act, several of the women who worked with Ashley set up a GoFundMe account, and that's actually to raise money to pay for Alexa's college education. Often a suicide, and I know this from personal experience, it's the hardest on those left behind. So the very least we can do is find some time, take an extra couple of dollars, and help pay for Alexa's college education. I will share the link on my social media channels. Now, in the meantime, some sad news when it comes to All Elite Wrestling. Adam Page versus Pac will not be taking place at Double or Nothing this coming Saturday. Reportedly, creative differences forced the match to be nixed. Since Pac is a reigning Dragon Gate champion, the promotion would not allow him to lose anywhere else, also look weak anywhere else. There's also chatter this could be visa issues as well, so that could have been a concern. Either way, you can actually head over to the AEW YouTube page as AEW released the full match between Page versus Pac that took place over the weekend at Wrestling Gate Pro. So that's the event, and you can actually see how that transpired on their page. On the program today, a Money in the Bank recap, Raw and Smackdown recaps, and of course, a full preview with my guest, Ryan Boman, of Double or Nothing this coming Saturday.
Your weekly recap.
Despite the fact I was out of the country this past weekend, enjoying the World Expo of beer, and boy, was it a fantastic and memorable experience, I still managed to watch Money in the Bank live on Sunday. Wanted to share my full recap. Maybe it's just me, but I swore that the Usos versus Daniel Bryan and Rowan were for the Smackdown Tag Team Championship. Upon the Usos winning following the synchronized splash, I was rather surprised. I was actually shocked that it was deemed a non-title match. News to me. Either way, they better not take the tag team titles off of Bryan and Rowan until they convert those belts to hemp. The women's Money in the Bank match was very entertaining, and Bayley pulling off the victory was completely unexpected. A nice surprise. The eclipse off the ladder was a highly likely spot to occur, and it did not disappoint. Splitting from Sasha Banks sure worked wonders for Bayley's singles career, right? Unfortunately, the match between Rey Mysterio and Samoa Joe was cut drastically short. That was due to an injury to Joe's nose. Personally, I found it bizarre how Dominic just simply stood at ringside as Joe decimated his father following the loss. Why not grab a chair, run in, attempt to defend your blood? Right? That's your father. Definitely not winning a Son of the Year contest anytime soon. By the way, Ray became a modern era WWE Grand Slam champion with the victory. Shane McMahon slipped out of his jersey, fell out of the ring in order to be declared the winner of the steel cage match, of course. The real story in this feud seems to be Shane getting lucky through every twist and turn, but apparently it's not over. The Miz still wants a piece of Shane McMahon. Now, mid-show, there was a promo for Super Showdown that actually asked, what's equal to or better than WrestleMania? WWE Super Showdown. I will have to disagree there. Tony Nese versus Arya Daivari for the WWE Cruiserweight Championship was yet another solid 205 Live match, and refreshingly, it wasn't relegated to the pre-show. It was promoted for a change. By the way, let's take a second to acknowledge Nigel McGuinness is arguably the best commentator in the pro wrestling business today. Lacey Evans looked very impressive in the biggest high-profile match of her career. Becky Lynch retained her Raw Women's Championship after forcing Lacey Evans to tap out to disarm her. The celebration was cut short. Charlotte Flair immediately came out to face Becky Lynch. No better time like the present. After interference from Lacey Evans, Charlotte Flair won her 9th Women's Championship. Last week, I had a theory that she would bring the title back to SmackDown so Becky Lynch would focus on Raw. Then Bayley came out to rescue Becky from further harm while Charlotte was laid out. Bayley successfully cashed in her Money in the Bank contract to become the new SmackDown Women's Champion and the first Women's Grand Slam champion as well. This was a great decision as we really needed a fresh championship picture on SmackDown, and Bayley appears to be very motivated. Elias smashed Roman Reigns with his acoustic guitar, so we were treated to an electric tune for a change, where he predictably referenced the Hartford Whalers heading to Carolina. Either way, I loved it. Roman came out, quickly speared Elias for the victory. Very disappointing that Elias still hasn't earned a victory over Roman in quite some time, I think, if ever. AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins was far and away match of the night. The chemistry was completely on point. A prime example of that was the sequence where AJ Styles countered the stomp into the Styles Clash. It was masterfully executed, and as expected, Seth retained, but I'm genuinely curious to see where AJ Styles goes from here. Not to be outdone, Kevin Owens and Kofi Kingston also told a great story, with Kofi Kingston retaining following Trouble in Paradise sans his boots. Somewhat strange that KO decided, hey, you know what, you're not wearing boots anymore. Ripped them off Kofi and just chucked them out of the ring. With Sami Zayn removed from the match, it was obvious that someone would run down and take advantage of the open spot. The match itself was full of huge spots, with Ali, Ricochet, Balor, and Andrade really shining. I noted that last week, so it's not a surprise. As Ali ascended up the ladder, he was oh so very close. He reached for the briefcase, and then all of a sudden, Brock Lesnar runs down, pushed over some ladders onto the camera crew, knocked Ali off the ladder the stiff way, and pulled down the briefcase. The conclusion was not well received by the live audience as they were visibly annoyed, but from a storyline perspective, who would even allow Brock Lesnar to fill the spot? Still a lot of unanswered questions. Either way, the finish was highly influenced by the fact that Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar is scheduled for Super Showdown in Saudi Arabia. Raw opened with the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman bragging about their victory at Money in the Bank. Brock even hilariously acted as if the briefcase was a boombox. He started jamming out to the non-existent music. I want to know what was going through his head. What song was it there? This brought out Seth Rollins and eventually Kofi Kingston, who both insinuated that Brock should cash in on one of them in the evening. Paul Heyman noted that both world champions were essentially auditioning to face Brock Lesnar. I believe a very strong opening segment. Braun Strowman squashed Sami Zayn in less than 1 minute. To say the past 24 hours have been turbulent for Sami Zayn would have been a grand understatement. Ricochet versus Cesaro. Who's the winner there? The fans, because it was an incredible match featuring several memorable spots. Cesaro has received the new theme song that definitely won't get confused with that Scott Steiner siren intro as well. And Ricochet, as I've noted, he is a human video game character. It's unbelievable. I'm convinced the wild card rule was set in place just for Vince to have Roman Reigns appear every week on Raw. He traded verbal jabs with Shane McMahon. McMahon then announced that he wouldn't face Reigns tonight, but rather at Super Showdown. What I completely dislike about the wild card rule is the fact that it overexposes talent, and it will inevitably cause fatigue. We don't need to see the same talent prominently featured on back-to-back nights. The Revival defeated the Usos in just a little over 10 minutes in a pretty solid tag team match. Sadly, it was still bogged down by silly commentary as it focused on all of the immature pranks pulled by the Usos. I vote for 3 hours of Firefly Funhouse, one of the most interesting points of Raw on a weekly basis. Alexa Bliss attempted to interview Becky Lynch on A Moment of Bliss. This eventually led to Becky Lynch, Nikki Cross, and Alexa Bliss versus Lacey Evans, Peyton Royce, and Billie Kay. Bliss simply stood at ringside sipping on coffee in ring gear despite not even being medically cleared. Who thought of this? And then this was not well received either. Mick Foley introduced the 24/7 title to the sound of crickets and then prominent booing. Based on the disjointed explanation, this appears to be the same rules in place as the Hardcore Championship, except for the fact that it applies to every single brand under the WWE umbrella. That's right. Raw, Smackdown, 205 Live, NXT, and NXT UK. A few quick thoughts and observations here. 24/7 Championship is a horrendous name, and the championship belt looks hideous. I think a lot of it has to do with the color of the actual strap itself. Now, the announcement itself was actually met with silence, with the only positive reaction being the mention of NXT. Then the live crowd started booing. Oh, it got even better. Foley noted that the first person who retrieves the belt will be champion. That's right, this brought out several wrestlers. They attempted to grab it, while Titus O'Neil just pulled it out of the middle of the ring, and he was declared the first champion before being pinned on stage by Robert Roode. Then Robert Roode, as he was exiting the building, well, R-Truth was there to greet him. Same with a referee outside of a rental vehicle. He then pinned Roode in the parking lot and then drove off. Drew McIntyre pinned The Miz following the Claymore kick. The match was serviceable, but the storyline between The Miz and Shane has grown very stale to me. And in the main event, it was Seth Rollins and Kofi Kingston defeating Bobby Lashley and Baron Corbin in a no DQ match. Brock teased cashing in the briefcase, but you knew full well the possibility of that occurring was slim to none. Smackdown opened with Elias apologizing to Shane for recently dropping the ball. The songsmith of WWE will be facing Roman Reigns later on in the evening. Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods introduced the real Big E after they revealed a much slimmer imposter under a blanket. A visibly angry and dejected Kevin Owens appeared with Sami Zayn. KO eventually stormed off, and Sami was left with 2 microphones in his hands, and he will be challenging Kofi Kingston later on. Always fun to have Big E back on television. If you don't follow him on Twitter, you should. He is Twitter's favorite son. I love his account. Andrade versus Ali was up next, and while it was a solid effort from both men that ultimately produced a really good televised match, I disliked the finish. Ali won after a bit of a clunky roll-up pin. Meanwhile, R-Truth asked for Carmella's assistance as he snuck around backstage in fear of losing his 24/7 championship, though he's still unclear as to what that actually means. So Carmella dressed him up with a wig and a crop top, which was intended to be a very obvious disguise. We knew it was R-Truth. Then Carmella versus Mandy Rose ended in a no contest after half a dozen or so wrestlers just ran down in an effort to attack R-Truth and take away his 24/7 championship. Carmella hopped onto his back, and the two promptly ran off. Kofi Kingston defeated Sami Zayn with Trouble in Paradise, a very satisfying match that continues to feature Kofi as the valiant babyface champion. Post-match, Paul Heyman walked onto the stage with the Money in the Bank briefcase as Kofi frantically looked around for Brock. I would be too. Instead of Brock, it was a returning Dolph Ziggler, who managed to jump Kofi Kingston from behind and brutalize the champion. Kofi did the stretcher job, but as he was pushed to the top of the ramp, he rolled off, left on his own 2 feet. Love those little details, as it was all about pride. By the way, if Brock Lesnar actually worked on Tuesdays, he could have cashed in to become champion. Charlotte and Lacey Evans versus Becky Lynch and Bayley. I enjoyed that. The conclusion saw Bayley roll up Charlotte for the victory. A necessary tag team match to feature all 4 talent on television again. Overall, I enjoyed it. Dolph Ziggler walked out on stage to explain his cowardly actions from earlier. The whole basis of the promo is that it should have been me instead of Kofi Kingston. This was undoubtedly the best promo work of Dolph Ziggler's career. You didn't need to love the material, but his improv and acting skills have paid off as the delivery was extremely believable along with the layers of emotion involved. Despite ongoing assistance courtesy of Shane McMahon, Roman Reigns once again managed to defeat Elias following the spear. The feud would have been far more logical and far more effective if Elias managed to pull off a victory because he desperately needs one over the big dog. Instead, he has seemingly lost every single time they meet. You only get one chance to make a great first impression, so you better get it right. This Saturday, All Elite Wrestling has the chance to prove the fans right and the detractors wrong. In order to really establish themselves as a viable alternative, they must exceed the sky-high expectations. Next, I'm joined by Ryan Boman, editor-in-chief of The Gorilla Position, as we provide you with a full preview of Double or Nothing this coming Saturday.
Our topic of the week.
The inaugural pay-per-view for All Elite Wrestling, Double or Nothing, takes place this coming Saturday, May the 25th, from the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. The pre-show is called The Buy-In. Starts at 7 p.m. in the East. The main card, of course, Double or Nothing, begins at 8 p.m. in the East. Ryan, it is almost time. Can you feel the change in the air?
My gosh, it must feel like Christmas in the middle of the springtime for all the wrestling fans out there. I know it does for me. I am pumped and looking forward to this next generation of professional wrestling starting this weekend.
Going to go back to the basics, too. 9 matches in total, 2 set for the pre-show. The event available through Bleacher Report Live, a little bit different, the streaming service, $49.99. Also available through traditional pay-per-view for the same price.
Yeah, the Bleacher Report thing kind of threw me for a second because I've never watched any events. Now, I know they've done live sporting events, especially a lot of soccer stuff. It's owned by Warner Media. So I think everything, tying in together makes a lot of sense. As long as they are prepared for what I think will be a massive amount of traffic coming to that website, as long as they have the bandwidth, because I do believe this pay-per-view is going to do a really, really, I think it's going to sell really well.
Yeah, that seems to be the common consensus. Of course, WWE, UFC in particular, they always look at social media leading up to an event, and then they try and predict the pay-per-view buy rate. In this case, I'm sure they're doing the exact same thing because Tony Khan is obsessed statistics. He actually owns a company, I believe, in Boston that focuses solely on statistics. So you have to imagine he's watching the trends here.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people throw out wild numbers as far as what the buy rate would be. Now, obviously, WWE doesn't do buy rates like they did pre-network days. But, they're still doing, 6 figures, 250 to 400,000, for some pay-per-views in that range. Now, do I think that Double or Nothing will reach that number? No. But I think if they could get 6 figures, if they get 100,000 buy rate this first time out, a brand new company with especially with the names that have been announced, because they don't have mega household names on this card outside of Chris Jericho. So I guess people are going to tune in for what the anticipation is. People are going to tune in for possible surprises, and they're going to tune in mostly in protest, I think, in many ways. I think everybody's willing to give an alternative a shot the first time out.
Absolutely. I believe this is wishful thinking. I feel a lot of optimism here, and that's exactly what we need in 2019. So let's start with the card. It is the Casino Battle Royale. It will be on the buy-in pre-show. I believe you can watch this actually for free. And this was originally scheduled to be the over-the-budget Battle Royal that took place at All In. But with the name change came a few new rules. 5 men will start the match every 3 minutes. Another 5 men will enter the bout. Lucky number 21, of course, we're in Vegas, will enter last. The winner of the Battle Royale will earn a future AEW World title shot. 17 confirmed, 4 more.
I think number 21 is going to win. And I think that's going to be our big surprise person on the card. Whoever that is that enters with card number 21, I think is not only going to be a big shocker, they're going to be immediately thrust into the main event picture. But as of right now, I have to go with, I guess he's not Ty Dillinger anymore, is he?
No, he's not. He's Sean Spears.
As of right now, the names that I see in there, I would pick Sean Spears. But I believe that we've got one or two surprises still coming in this event, in this match, and one of those surprises will be the Ultimate winner.
I'm going to hold you to that, but first I'm going to run down who is confirmed. We have Brandon Cutler, Glacier. Can you believe that? A blast from the past, right? Is this 1998 all over again? Sonny Kiss, Ace Romero, Sunny Days, Brian Pillman Jr. As you know, I'm a huge Brian Pillman fan. Anxious to see this. MJF, Joey Janela, Dustin Thomas, Billy Gunn. Yes, he's going to be in there. Jimmy Havoc, Michael Nakazawa, Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, Isaiah Kennedy, Marqueen, I believe, and then Sean Spears, formerly known as Ty Dillinger. If I'm having to choose one person from this confirmed list, I'm leaning towards Joey Janela.
Well, I got to tell you, there's a lot of intriguing names, and I think I would, in another time down the road, I would say Pillman Jr., but I don't think he's quite ready to take that step into the AEW title picture just yet. Same thing with guys like Jungle Boy. I mean, there's a ton of great young talent that are going to get showcased in this match. And I think that's the biggest thing we're going to get out of this. Win, lose, whoever comes out as the ultimate winner at the end, I think this Battle Royal has the potential to show us a whole lot of new young stars all at the same time, and in turn get everybody excited right off the bat for AEW.
You're right on the money. This is a way to grow them, obviously grow that interest in each superstar. This could be a star-making performance for at least more than one superstar in this match. Now, you mentioned surprises. Are you willing to, because this is a Vegas theme after all, bet on any surprises that will be participating in this Casino Battle Royale?
Well, you know, I'm not the greatest gambler in the world, but I think I would put Jon Moxley.
Really?
I keep hearing that there's no chance he's not going to show up. It's not going to happen. And that's why I think he's number 21.
But the pre-show, though, see, that to me is the only thing that pulls me back on moving forward with that prediction, is that Jon Moxley on the pre-show, to me, seems like a bit of a waste.
But that means everybody watching the pre-show who was hesitant about buying the main card, which is the way pre-shows used to work. It used to be an appetite whetter to try to talk you into buying the big event. Now they're just a pre-show. Now it's just all the people who are already going to watch tune in for the pre-show. I think the looming idea that now this guy's holding the card and he's part of AEW, I think anybody at the last minute who had any doubts about purchasing that card, if they see the former Dean Ambrose pop up and then you go to the last 5 minutes of now you got to dial in or you got to tune in or punch in the code now to buy, I think anybody that's on the fence is immediately buying Double or Nothing. And I think that's a brilliant strategy.
So it's the Billy Mays strategy of wait, there's more, basically, right?
Absolutely. I mean, why if you're AEW and you really want to make a splash to convince people you need to plunk down that $50 and your free preview includes something you did not expect. Again, this is me throwing, if we're going to use gambling figures, this is my long shot bet. But boy, what a hell of a long shot it would be.
Let's move ahead to the next match. On the buy-in, it's Sammy Guevara versus Kip Sabian. So Kip was originally set for the Casino Battle Royale, but this should be an excellent pre-show match to get viewers pumped up. If you're unfamiliar with both men, allow me to briefly introduce them. So Superbad, Kip Sabian was previously trained by Paige's family, that's the Knights, and he has mostly made a name for himself around the UK, World of Sport, World Association of Wrestling, Southside Wrestling Entertainment, just to name a few. At 27, he possesses a ton of potential. He continues to improve, particularly over the past couple of years. I've seen him grow a lot more comfortable as a performer. Sammy Guevara, he started to make a name for himself in Mexico, quickly started to migrate over to America and some of the promotions there, such as MLW, PWG, Evolve, and recently on Season 4 of Lucha Underground. You'll notice a lot of the individuals on the card actually came from Lucha Underground. And I was first introduced to him back in 2017 with a great match against Ricochet. Now, he's merely 25. I believe he has practically nailed down the art of the arrogant heel. Similar ages, size, skill. They're going to put on a clinic. I believe Sammy Guevara will be the winner because they're going to push him as one of the major heels in the company. How about you?
Absolutely, 100% agree with you. Had a chance. I like both these guys. Had a chance to meet Sammy down at NWA 70, and the expression "cooler than the other side of the pillow" fits him perfectly. This kid's so mature. He gets it. I mean, he just has a cool confidence about it. Not arrogant. I mean, not in his personal life, but it carries over to that character, having that confidence. I agree. I think he is one of those guys that can go all the way to the moon in this new company.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one as well, too. So next up, I'm going to butcher some names. I heard this on the Major Wrestling Figure podcast. Take a shot if I butcher this. But here we go anyway. We have the team of Aja Kong, Yuka Sakazaki. I think I already butchered that one. Emi Sakura versus Ikaro Shida, Riko, and Ryo Mizunami. I believe that's about as good as I can do. I will be completely honest with you. Other than Yuka and Aja Kong, I'm not super familiar with the majority of the competitors in this match.
The only one I know anything about is Aja Kong.
Of course.
So I'm picking her team to win. That's it.
By default.
Look, I know you tried to invite an expert on the show, but in this case, I'm just throwing up my hands and saying I could make it up. I could BS and lie. I do not know enough about any of these women other than to pick the one team with the one wrestler I know the best.
Well, of course, with Aja Kong, she is most well known because she spent a substantial amount of time in Japan. Actually, she debuted 33 years ago, 1986. Basically made a name for herself, of course, throughout Japan, All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling, among many others. She even had a short-lived rivalry against Alundra Blaze. That was back in the WWF in 1995. That's really where she made a name for herself in North America at the very least.
And I believe believe Medusa worked in Japan against her as Medusa as well. So they had it on both continents, the rivalry. Man, it's amazing the career she's had that is relatively unknown in North America. But I think I'm going to go with the veteran and her team because, again, in this case, familiarity does not breed contempt.
Well, mark my words, I believe the star of this match is going to be Yuka Sakazaki. I believe that she has that similarity to Kairi Sane where you just can't help but cheer for her. Very likable personality. So yes, the team of Aja Kong and her two partners will win this match. We move ahead to the best friends. It's Chucky T and Trent Beretta versus Angelico and Jack Evans. The best friends, they've been teaming together since about 2013 in PWG. They also found themselves in ROH and most recently New Japan. Now, both of them have been active in wrestling since about the mid-2000s, and they really started to gel as a team as their singles careers were somewhat stagnant. Now, much like several wrestlers on the card, Angelico competed for Lucha Underground most recently and also AAA, and at one point, NXT was reportedly interested in him. He's 6'3", he's deceptively tall for many of the high-flying moves he does execute. And over to Jack Evans for a second. He's been a long-time veteran. 37 years old, he debuted in 2000. Since then, he's been a bit of a journeyman. He's competed in dozens of promotions, including ROH, Dragon Gate, Lucha Underground, and the very short-lived, I remember him from there, Wrestling Society X. You don't hear that very often. And I know. And just a very unique style that involves even breakdancing. He's one of the most experienced high flyers in the world, I should say. So what can we expect, Ryan, from this match? I believe it's going to be a quick pace, and we're going to see that from Angelico and Jack Evans, best friends, looking to keep them grounded if possible.
I have a feeling, and I like all these competitors as well. And Jack Evans, another thing you can say about him is legitimately, actually, is a tough guy too. He's as you said, a grizzled veteran, a guy that has proven himself time and again. But I think I'm going to take the best friends because, again, I'm hedging a lot of my bets on guys that I think are going to get that immediate push out of the gate with the new company. And I think best friends are another one of those teams that fit that mold and that personality and that style that AEW is going to want to kind of project in this first show.
I agree with you too. I believe they're the more established team, and they could easily challenge the Young Bucks or the Lucha Bros down the line. SoCal Uncensored. It's Daniels, Scorpio Sky, Frankie Kazarian versus Seema, T-Hawk, and El Lindemann. So All Elite Wrestling is partnered with Oriental Wrestling Entertainment, OWE, of China, and this match will showcase three of their talents. If you've never heard of OWE, I almost compare it to Cirque du Soleil of wrestling. Have you seen this? It's extremely unique and very, very fast-paced.
Actually, I have two friends that were trainers over there for OWE when I was first getting off the ground. But yeah, shout out to Jack Manley and Remy Marcel, the Whirlwind Gentlemen. They went over to put in some time with OWE, and they explained the concept to me. Very kind of a kung fu type storyline, background to it, and also, just very. It's just kind of its own unique product. Cirque du Soleil is a good way to put it. Lucha Underground, it kind of has some of shades of that, where it has its own sort of culture to it. And that's one reason why, because I think they want to open up that market and definitely work with that company, that I think the OWE guys will go. I think SCU will do the right thing and help showcase this new company by putting them over on the pay-per-view. And it's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt SoCal Uncensored.
Not at all. I believe the same thing will happen. I originally had SoCal Uncensored, but I flipped back and forth throughout the day. I do believe Seema T-Hawk and El Lindemann will win, only because they do want to showcase OWE talent. Now, to really focus on why it's so important, Seema has been competing for quite a while. He's best well known for his work in Dragon Gate. And of course, Daniels and Kazarian, they have been teaming together since TNA. Sky joined the duo, making them a trio in 2018. Like you said, they don't need the victory. OWE needs the showcase, needs the spotlight, so I'm going with them to win as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure my friends who have worked with the company will tell you totally butchered the whole concept of the company. But I understand what you're saying. It is very theatric, and part of that is to cover for the fact that it is a startup company. But I think there's elements to OWE that the people in charge of AEW, not just only opening up a new market overseas, but that style and incorporating them in small doses with All Elite Wrestling. I think it's, in the long term, it's best if you go ahead and put them over this first night out.
Definitely. Dr. Britt Baker, Doctor in the House versus Kylie Ray, Nyla Rose. So Britt Baker, she's the girlfriend of Adam Rose, or you can say vice versa. Adam Cole is the boyfriend of Britt Baker. She is most likely well known for her match against Madison Rayne, Chelsea Green, Tessa Blanchard at All In last September. That was really the spotlight for her. And while her overall win-loss record isn't particularly impressive, Britt continues to improve at a rapid rate, and she's gained a ton of experience over the past couple of years. Now, Kylie Ray, she is widely considered to be almost the indie version of Bayley that features her outgoing, bubbly, cheerful personality. She's an excellent babyface who effectively sells. It makes a believable comeback, a very bright future for her. Nyla Rose has also made some waves because she has become the first transgender woman to compete for a major wrestling promotion. Her size and strength can be imposing, and it's a threat to any competitor. Now, who gets the victory in this match, Ryan?
First of all, I think all three of these competitors will be stars in AEW. I think they'll all do well in AEW. However, I think the one earmarked to be one of the main females in the company is Dr. Britt Baker.
Yes.
I think you got to give her the star-making performance in this match. She's got there's so many it factors with her that just, I think that you can totally market her, and I think, yeah, you got to showcase her this first night out as well.
Based on the placement on the posters, the photo shoots, I really see AEW pushing her as the face of their women's division. I have Britt Baker, the Doctor, winning as well.
Yep. Well, so far we're almost in lockstep on this one.
Yeah, this is odd. So we move ahead, brother versus brother, old school versus new school. Dustin Rhodes, the Natural, versus Cody Rhodes. This match was basically about 5 years in the making, but now we have the proper build and story to feature it on a major stage. So with Cody Rhodes establishing himself as one of the biggest names outside of WWE, Dustin Rhodes is here to crush Cody's ego and humble the American Nightmare. Now, in turn, Cody believes a victory over Dustin carries far more weight than we could ever imagine. It's not just the end of the Natural, but also a bullet in the head of the Attitude Era. In terms of impeccable storytelling, these two have arguably generated more interest on the card than anyone else, and deservingly so. How do you see this playing out?
I think it's one of two ways, and I will tell you, it's either Dustin wins and it's the beginning of a long and fantastic rivalry to start off things in this company, or Cody wins, they do the mutual handshake and hug at the end, and the two brothers walk out of the ring together. That's what I think is going to happen. I think it's a one-time out between these two. I think they have a great, hard-fought, very physical match, and they bury their hatchet at the end with Cody coming out on top.
I consider you a wrestling historian. When you hear about this match, do you get goosebumps thinking of Dusty Rhodes and how proud he would be of this moment?
How proud he would be of not only the careers that both of his boys already have had, but where they're going to go together. I think in the grand scheme of things, if anything would make Dusty happy, it would be seeing Dustin helping his little brother with help get this project off the ground and maybe just change wrestling history together.
So your prediction is who at the end of the day? Mine is Cody Rhodes. I believe the American Nightmare will win the match. And like you mentioned, shaking of the hands, emotional hug, and they will leave the ring. I believe that's the satisfying conclusion that we all want to see.
Absolutely. I might even shed a tear for Big Dust if that happens.
If you will. Hangman Page is not on the card. We're not going to talk about it too much. I covered it extensively on the program here. His match versus Pac has been canceled. I had hope, and I still do, that Hangman Page will have a match on this card. TBD. This could be a big surprise in terms of him showing up saying, I want a match, and then you bring out maybe Jon Moxley or even Kenta. Many have forgotten about him. He's a free agent. He's ready to go.
Yeah, I'm certain Page is going to make his presence felt on this card. I mean, he's too big of a name with this company, and he's definitely another one of those people that they believe they can strap a rocket to because his upside is just, it's unbelievable. He's going to be on the card somewhere. I'm of the same belief. If maybe he's another one of the surprises, maybe he's number 21 in the pre-show, and he comes out and issues a challenge for anybody in the building.
That
again,
could be true.
That lead-in, I think, is going to be more important than any WWE pre-show we've seen in the last 5 years. I think the lead-up to that, they're going to throw a few things at people, again, who are on the fence about buying the show. It could be Adam Page there, and then he interjects himself later in the card.
Makes sense. Very reminiscent of what UFC used to do with their Fox cards. If you recall, they'd have a pre-show or a pre-card, and they would have a pretty substantial match on there leading into the Fox card or into a big pay-per-view such as, say, UFC 200, right? So probably a very similar mindset with Double or Nothing.
Right. Again, they don't have those guaranteed buyers WWE has. Most people watching WWE pre-shows are just, that's the appetizer to what they've already decided to watch. I think AEW has to have a different strategy with their, at least this first time out with the pre-show.
Yeah, it's a lot of trial by fire here, and I guess we'll see what happens. So, co-main. I'm saying the co-main because I believe we do have a clear-cut main event, but I'm saying it's going to be Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho. The only reason why is the Young Bucks have alluded to the fact that tag team wrestling can main event a card in 2019, so I'm going with Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho here. So it is Alpha versus Omega. Part 2, the long-awaited sequel to their 5-star match at Wrestle Kingdom 12. Physically, Jericho, if you've seen him on Instagram, he appears to be in the best shape in years. The mix of the MMA training has completely transformed his body, allowed him also to gain some muscle. And despite losing the New Japan Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Championship in January, Kenny Omega remains arguably the best wrestler on the planet today. But my prediction is Chris Jericho gets the win back, sets up the trilogy.
Totally agree, and I think that this is going to be a feud that definitely carries all the way into the debut of the show in the fall. They've got a great thing between the two of them. Jericho's just the master of selling. He's just at the art of selling the show, and that's why I believe you are correct, sir. He will get the win back on North American soil against Kenny Omega, setting up a rubber match. Probably a gigantic rubber match that's going to help his company later on in this year.
So many more chapters left to write, a lot of mileage left in the tank. I think they would be foolish just to write it off at this point. Yes, there are many dream matches that we want to see featuring Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho separately, but together you need to have that final hurrah, and the trilogy would accomplish just that.
I totally agree, and let's face it, if you give Omega a second straight win over Jericho, you really have nowhere to go from here. That first match happened for New Japan. I'm sure that AEW would like to get as much mileage out of these two as they can. And you don't want to close the door the first night out.
AAA World Tag Team Championship on the line. It's the champions, the Young Bucks, versus the Lucha Brothers. The Young Bucks are not only on a mission to provide, or basically to say that, hey, tag team wrestling is alive and well in 2019, but we can also main event. And in this case, I predict they will close the show. As I noted, a few months after this match was made, the Young Bucks unexpectedly defeated the Lucha Bros to claim the AAA World Tag Team Championship in Mexico. To say the crowd was stunned would be a gross understatement as well.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that. At the same time, I thought my first instinct on this match in Vegas was, well, the Lucha Brothers will get the titles back because they're naturally suited to be AAA champions, and the Young Bucks will move on to chasing the AEW World Tag Team titles when they debut. However, having said that, if you tell me that we're closing the show with this match, I can't see the Young Bucks losing. So if they are in the main event, I think they win the match and they go out on top, because let's face it, I mean, they are a huge part of why we have an All Elite Wrestling. So I don't know if you're closing with the tag team match, I think the Bucks win.
That makes sense. I would still love to see this match headline the card, not only because of the Young Bucks, but especially because of Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix. For those not familiar with either of those talents, they're brothers. They've competed in MLW, AAA, and also Impact Wrestling, and as single competitors, highly decorated and perhaps even better, but together they are quite the force, quite the tandem. So these are two of the very best teams in the world going head-to-head. It's also going to be my pick for match of the night, hands down.
Yeah, I agree. I think these four guys, Pentagon and Phoenix, are just amazing. And some of the stuff, the impact they come up with, no pun intended, but seeing those guys, the things that they can do as a tandem, the tandem moves, the tag team moves they've come up with are like a high-octane version of the Midnight Express, a modern-day version of that, you throw the guy into your partner and there's double the impact when he hits him. I mean, these two guys are two of the best competitors in the world. As you said, Pentagon Jr., former Impact World Champion in his own right. So these guys are threats as both singles competitors and as a tag team. This is a match, it could be a toss-up in my mind. I just feel like no matter who wins at the end, if this match closes the show, everybody goes home happy because, like you said, it is going to be a scene stealer.
Final thoughts on Double or Nothing taking place this coming Saturday.
Honestly, I don't think there's any way, especially considering how disgruntled the general wrestling audience is right now. I read someone online that said, after everything we've seen from WWE, Kenny Omega could walk in the middle of the ring and take a dump and he'd get a standing ovation. That's why I think this first time out, it's going to be like having training wheels on. I don't think they can do much to fail. I think where they go after Double or Nothing is what will make or break All Elite Wrestling. But I think they're going to come out of this. I think they're going to come out of this pay-per-view with the same type of good feelings they got from All In, except now we have a clear idea of what comes next.
The buy-in takes place this coming Saturday at 7 p.m. in the East. The main card, Double or Nothing, 8 p.m. in the East. He's Ryan Boman. Thanks for joining me. Hope you enjoy the event this coming Saturday.
Same to you, Chris, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend.
You're listening to The Signature Spot with Chris Toplack.
If you reside in the United States, you can watch Double or Nothing on Warner Media's BR Live. The show will cost you $50. Over in the UK, Double or Nothing will air on the ITV box office channel. And if you're outside of the U.S., like myself, you can watch the pay-per-view on Fight.tv. I believe it is also available on traditional pay-per-view as well. It will also cost you $50. Plus, don't forget, 1 hour prior to Double or Nothing will be the buy-in show. It is their free pre-show available on AEW's YouTube channel. Order it, enjoy it, and we'll chat about it next Thursday. Until then, happy trails to you. Until we meet again.
This concludes another episode of The Signature Spot with Chris Toplack. For new episodes, subscribe on YouTube, Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, or iTunes. And don't forget to follow The Signature Spot on Facebook for exclusive clips, polls, and opinions.